Hello, my name is Jordan Finney, and today's segment is going to be on what is existence. This is a very overarching question in today's society. Why are we here? What are we here for? So I'm going to be trying to answer that today. So, yeah. The 5 books and short stories we're going to be talking about today are Slaughterhouse-Five,
I Met Chalfin Midorian,
Night, Separate Peace, Catcher in the Rye, As I Lay Dying,
My Mother's a Fish.
and A Good Man's Hard to Find. So now I'm going to give you a very brief overview. Slaughterhouse-Five is about a guy named Billy Pilgrim. This guy is crazy. He goes through time travel events, visits aliens. Night is a true story based on the Holocaust about a guy named Ellie and his experience in the concentration camps. Separate Peace is about a kid named Glenn who pushes his friend Finney off of a tree. Catcher in the Rye is about a young boy named Holden Caulfield. This guy is trying to find himself in a city alone without his family, and As I Lay Dying is a story about people trying to bury their mother in unnecessary fashion. A Good Man's Hard to Find is about a person named Misfit. Nobody knows his real name, but basically he's a psycho killer that kills people for basic needs. Well, I'm going to start off with Slaughterhouse-Five. How does existence make us question our purpose in life? In the world of Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt Vonnegut is trying to explain through Billy the hard times of life at war and what it takes away from you, and how this affects you. For Billy, this really took away his humanity. The story of Billy's life is going through time over and over again, never completely dying, because he adopted this new theory by the Tralfamadorians that is that you never die, you are always living at some point in time, and you just bounce right back to it, so it's not really that big of a deal. This totally isolates Billy from the rest of the world. He can't even change his imagery of what happened. He can't interfere, he's just a bystander watching his own life. Also in the Tralfamadorian theories, they believe in a process of predetermination. This is a philosophy from Calvinism, which is a religion that John Calvin, the famous philosopher, scientist, etc., that he made up, and it's basically saying that God has a predetermined plan for your life, whether it's good or evil. It's already chosen for you. The Tralfamadorians say that the universe is going to end from discovery of a new fuel that just combusts and blows up the entire universe. Does this existence question immortality? With this said, they also believe that they have been there already, so they're just living in new times, the same time. Past is the future is the past, the present is always. So they really don't value time, because their things in life, whatever, have been determined for them already. Ours are up to us to make the choice to be free. It's a part of our free will, it's part of our rights and laws as human beings. How does innocence corrupt our existence? In Night, the young boy Ellie is forced to leave to a concentration camp. Further along in the story, Ellie, in the concentration camp, can't even remember what day it is. When he arrives, all he sees are babies being thrown as target practice and people pushed into pits. Ellie was literally 2 steps away from death. And take into account, this is a young, innocent boy being forced into adulthood. How does forced adulthood change a person forever? As the story progresses, Ellie becomes more primitive-like in behavior and starts to act out of the normal. His emotions are either sad or angry, and he's never happy. You could really say the only thing that he cared about was a ration of bread. With this ration of bread, he can get almost anything he wanted, but happiness. A perfect example of his primitive behaviors is when he is almost persuaded to not give his father his rations. His existence is reliant on a piece of bread. Wow. I hope you guys are starting to see the pattern here. What role do friends play on existence? In A Separate Peace, the main character, Gene, is trying to be who he's not. He wants to be just like Finney, but he just can't. His best friend, Finney, is everything he envies and wants to be, so he decides to push him off a tree. So in hopes to reach some type of equality between the two, Jean tries to strive to win this award called the Ne Ultra Scholastic Award. Later on, out of frustration, Jean decides he's gonna push Finney off a tree. After this fall, Finney and Jean both know that Jean did it purposefully, but Finney just doesn't have existence. How does the innocence of one's character portrayed in their life? In Finney's mind, he's trying to tell himself that Jean didn't do it, but really, he knows he did down in his self-conscious, and that's eating away at him till Finney finally just explodes on Jean and loses all his innocence at once. So as a tool of repayment, Finney tells Jean to carry out sports and that career that Finney had with Jean. How does our perception change through isolation? In As I Lay Dying, the most predominant character, Darl, was the most understanding of everybody else but he was able to go into people's minds without them really knowing, but they felt his presence some weird way. He was probably the most intellectual character throughout the whole novel, but would not express it to the rest of his family because of the simplistic life that they lived. Keeping all this locked up to himself began to push him away from the rest of his family, further isolating himself. Yet his unwillingness to express his feelings became his downfall when his family proclaimed him insane. So, what is insanity? Is Darl really insane, or is he just the smarter one out of all? But in the end, his family sent him to the crazy house. This was a stupid choice considering he might have been the brightest and best future for the family name to be carried on. How does existence make us resist change? In Catcher in the Rye, Holden is convinced everybody is phony. He gets kicked out of Pinsey Prep and then chooses to live his life in the city alone without any help or guidance. During this experience, he showed a lot of growth. He started off not understanding why people are the way they are, and finally figured out that everybody changes when they get older. While in the city, he goes home to visit his sister. His little sister is innocent in everything he wants to be, and she's extremely disappointed in him that he has been kicked out of school for the second time. How does existence make us attached? At the zoo, when Holden was in the process of leaving, his sister tried to go with him, so she followed him. She didn't want to let her big brother go, but Holden understood that he didn't want the same pattern to be repeated. He didn't want his sister to be mad that he was changing, and he didn't want his sister to rely on the same things that he did when he was stuck on innocence. How is innocence vulgar? Misfit is just doing what he needs to do. In the story, a good man is hard to find. Misfit is a killer trying to survive. Yet Misfit cares about what people think about him. While he was with the grandmother and the rest of her family, he was polite enough to say he's sorry he wasn't wearing the proper clothing. How can death make value in our existence? The grandma in the story respects no one but herself. I think Misfit in a way can see this, and that's why he's choosing to kill her. This grandma is doing everything in her power to stay alive, but she can't fight the inevitable. So she dies receiving 3 shots to the chest. In our existence, we learn through trial and error. Nothing can stop these forces from happening to us, but later, when you have to cope with this, it's different from person to person. Yet as long as we are all different, existence will bear different meanings.